Hello and welcome back to The Green Dream. Today I'm joined by Amy Browne, who is Stewardship Lead at CCLA Investment Management, and we're going to talk about all things mental health. So you've been doing quite a lot of work around this at CCLA. Can you talk to us about why it's important for corporates to consider this and also investors?
Now, there are lots of reasons, but for people who may not be so sold on the human reason, for supporting employees' mental health, there are major financial reasons for doing this as well. So to give you some numbers, for example, mental ill health at work costs businesses billions of pounds every year. Deloitte estimates that it costs an average of £1,600 per employee every year. So if you extrapolate that out based on a company like Amazon, that amounts to a total loss every year of $2.7 billion.
Wow, I don't think people realise there's that much involved. Obviously, there is the human element, but that is such a huge figure.
And it's a very, very material figure, which is why it's not only important for the companies themselves, for the employers, but also for investors. Now, possibly more excitingly, creating a positive environment for mental health in the workplace actually costs a lot less than failing to do so. Deloitte again finds an average return of £5.30 for every £1 invested in mental health interventions in the workplace. So it's a win-win situation. If we can get it right, businesses will prosper, and which should, in theory, translate to stronger share prices over time.
Okay, fantastic. And at CCLA, you've created this mental health benchmark, which we've covered on ESG Clarity, and that's been updated recently. Where have there been big jumps, and what's impressed you in terms of the initiatives that you've seen?
So many, and actually we're delighted by the amount of engagement that companies have had with this initiative, because often as a fairly small investor, it's very difficult to get companies to listen. And often, investor relations departments will see the request, see an email, and pull up the drawbridge and say, either stonewall you, say, not respond at all, or sort of give a very standard response and then done with it. But I think, and it's really nice to see, but because the project is beginning to mature, companies are coming to us now for recommendations. Okay. So we've had a lot of companies, I think. So we're moving as investors from being what maybe we were perhaps a little bit of a pest in the past to free management consulting in many ways. And so we've had a great uptake by scores of companies who have come and asking us for their advice. If you were to ask me for a couple of specific examples of companies that have blown us away, Weir Group was one. Their score against the benchmark criteria increased by almost 45% in a year. And I called them up. I said, "How did you do that? Because that is a lot of work." Yeah. And she said, "Well, first of all, it started when your letter, the letter that we'd written on behalf of an $8.5 trillion investor coalition, your letter arrived, it landed on the chief executive's desk, and that then sparked internal conversations. We then built a project plan around your recommendations and then spent months, almost a year, building that project out and implementing it across the business. And it worked."
Okay, fantastic. So what else would you like to see in terms of what corporate action? Are there any particular areas that really need to focus on this?
Yes. I think it's very easy for companies to throw out initiatives here, there and everywhere aimed at supporting their people, which is great, and it definitely has a place. But what we'd really like to see is companies really acknowledging the link between the fundamental principles of good work and good mental health. So that's not just about yoga sessions and fruit and wellness training. This is about acknowledging the link between fair pay and financial well-being and good mental health. If you're not being paid fairly for the work that you're doing, you're not going to be a happy or productive member of your business. Diversity, equity and inclusion. if you're feeling like a marginalised member of your business, again, you're not going to be a happy or productive employee. Equally, anti-bullying and non-harassment. If a company does not have a formal position that is carried out fully throughout the business, again, bullying and harassment causes people to very often actually to leave the business altogether. And then there are costs associated with that.
Okay, and what should fund selectors be asking asset managers about this? What should they be saying in their due diligence?
I would say, first of all, do you speak to your investee companies, the companies that you're investing in? Do you ask them about how they take care of the health and well-being of their own employees? Because actually employees are often the number one asset in a company. It's really, really important. So what do you do? What do you ask investee companies about how they're looking after their people? Then I would love them to say, have you ever heard of the CCLA Corporate Mental Health Benchmark? And if you haven't, you should have a look at it, because it's a great resource for investors.
Okay, fantastic. It's good to have an uplifting conversation about mental health. So thank you for coming in. We always end the Green Dream question with, what is your favourite sustainable drink or snack?
Which is snails.
Really?
Yeah. So I have a small garden, but I have way, way too many snails. So you just pluck them off the ground on a wet day and just pop them in some boiling water. A little squeeze of ketchup, dip it in, then pop them in.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm not sure about that one, but thank you very much for sharing, Amy.